Welcome to another day of Consumer Math. I'm your host, Mr. Sindel. Today we're talking about banking terminology. There are quite a few vocab terms that I want to go over before we can even talk about some of our other subjects. I'm definitely not going to be able to go over everything, especially when it comes to credit cards. I just want to talk about the basics. I'm taking lazy notes today, so just using Google Docs. I highly recommend using Google Docs with me. It's probably good to work on your typing speed, right? First and foremost, we've got a savings account. The first thing is it's for saving money. And this is the opposite of a checking account. A checking account, not a check-ins account, it's not plural, it's singular. A checking account is where you spend the money. So with a savings account, typically these are used for emergencies. So emergencies. They're also used for goals. So a little bit more about each of those. Remember that your first goal when you have your savings account, if you're following the 7 steps for Dave Ramsey, the first goal was to save that $1,000. And then step 2 is to pay off debts, which is really hard for some people. And then step number 3 is to save for 3 to 6 months. Sorry, 3 to 6 months of expenses for that cushion to make sure that you never go into debt. And then for goals, what do I mean by that? Your goals could be something kind of long-term. A long-term goal might be like a trip to Hawaii, which actually isn't that expensive for the flight, but I guess if you don't have a place to stay, then that becomes expensive. So maybe that is a long-term goal. Maybe a better long-term goal that is expensive is going to like Ireland or somewhere, I don't know. More of a short-term goal is like, you know what, if I do this and this and this and I save really well, I'm going to go out and buy some, I don't know, those cool boots that I saw online. And typically what I recommend for each of these goals is to have a separate savings account for each goal. Don't get these all muddled, don't get them mixed up. It doesn't hurt you unless you're about to go out and buy a big purchase like a car or a house where you care about your credit score. It doesn't hurt you in the short term. It doesn't hurt you in the long term, sorry, to open multiple savings accounts, but it does lower the average age of all of your accounts. But if you get a bunch of savings accounts really early, it's going to really be nice for your credit score. So I highly recommend getting quite a few savings accounts, like 4 or 5, when you're really young, that don't have weird like minimum balance requirements that are going to ding you every month. And again, I'll get into some of these words later, but it's a good idea to have multiple savings accounts, especially when it comes to like I'm going to have one for my $1,000, and then that will be upgraded to that one. So one account is purely for emergencies. This account is for a long-term goal. That account is for the short-term goal. I have a third or a fourth account for another short-term goal, etc., etc. Lots of talking. Moving on to a checking account. So a checking account is where everything goes in and out, essentially. It's kind of the core of your finances, I suppose. So this is where you're going to receive wages, and those are usually called direct deposits. Deposits. If you work for a job, sometimes they'll have that set up where you don't actually see the check. You can maybe see the pay stubs online, or maybe they'll mail you the pay stubs, but you never actually touch the money. You never touch the check. It just goes right into your checking account. It's really handy. What else do I want to say about that? You can, you'll pay your bills here, all of the bills, the utilities, everything. You'll write checks here. You'll deposit any money that you might have, like deposit. We'll just write money here. It's actually probably quicker to type that. Like if you get a bunch of money for Christmas or something, or if someone gives you cash for your car or whatever, you'll want to deposit money somewhere. It'll go into your checking account, singular, not plural, dear God. Yeah, and that's a good covering of all of those. I don't want to go too in depth yet. What do we have next? We have, I guess, a check. What is a check? Because you have a checking account, and I already talked about writing checks. A check is a piece of paper. This is a piece of paper that's kind of like a debit card, except it's for an exact amount of money. For an exact amount of money from checking account. And I think the easiest way to explain this is with a picture. So I'm going to grab this one, copy, and you can just Google example check and then throw it into your notes. Let's get rid of that and throw this in here. That is an example check, and it has a lot of elements to it, and we're going to have a project where you guys write like 5 checks, so you'll get the hang of this. But that's a check, and this is a check for $110.52. You have to sign it. Who's it to? You have to write out in words what that number is, just in case your handwriting is bad. Date. There's a bunch of things in here. So let's talk about a credit card. It's kind of another way of paying people. So a credit card. This is the it's kind of like the opposite of a debit card. So I'll put these both at the same time. So a credit card is more of the negative money. You are allowed to go into debt, and I always say negative money because I don't know, to me it's scarier than debt, and it makes more sense. And a debit card is positive money. This is I'll just say positive money. Money that you have, that you, positive, Mr. Sandell, autocorrect, thank you. So a credit card, I'm not going to talk about it too much in here, but it basically allows you to spend money that you don't have. So allows you to spend money you don't have. And therefore it will get you caught in debt. And sometimes you have to do this because you have no other choice. You have no money, so you need to go and buy groceries. But hopefully you can immediately repay that and not be trapped in debt. And then the debit card is the thing that is connected. There's only 2 ends in there, connected to your checking account. And it is how you spend that money from your checking account. Whenever you go to Vons or whatever, you go to the grocery store, you swipe that card, or maybe you do the contactless card, or use the magnetic strip. I don't know. EMV chip, do whatever you want. I'll talk about those terms when I talk about credit cards, using RFID technology and all that. But yeah, positive money, negative money, that's the general overview of those. And you should probably know this word. I'll just talk about it now. PIN. It's like it's essentially your password for your debit card. Hopefully that it doesn't get stolen. Although I think contactless cards don't need a PIN, but I'll have to double check that. I don't know the last time I did that. Moving forward. Oh yeah, the piece of the check I should talk about too. So routing number. Routing number. What is a routing number? A routing number is basically the number that identifies the banking institution. So, what am I going to say here? The number, I guess I'll call it the ID number for the bank or credit union or whatever. It's this first digit. It's the first part of the check. So in the bottom left, there's usually 3 numbers. The first number is saying, hey, I am a Wells Fargo check. Hey, I am a Chase check. It will tell you who the bank belongs to. And then the next number, which I guess we should head down here, is your actual account number. And that is the account number within that bank. So it's essentially saying, hey, which bank do I go to? And then who in that bank do I talk to, essentially. And then the last number is like, which check number is it? And this number should match that number, which it doesn't in this example. So maybe not the best example, but that one doesn't matter too much aside from just keeping your stuff organized. These first 2 are super important. Like if you need to pay something with a digital check, essentially they'll ask, hey, what's your routing number? Hey, what's your account number? That's the only 2 things that they'll ask for. So this is your ID number at the bank. What are other ways that you pay? Oh yeah, you can wire. So I talked about that word before, wire. And technically, is it called wire? It's called a wire transfer, right? Transfer. A wire transfer is just when you send money digitally. And my definition is from bank to bank. So I don't consider Venmo to be a wire transfer, not Venmo. Venmo goes from your bank to Venmo, and then hangs out in Venmo until you click on the button, send a bank, and then in a few days you actually get in your bank. So not really a wire transfer. This is like very, very secure, bank to bank. You never have to worry about it. Like if you have those multiple savings accounts that I talked about earlier, you are going to be doing wire transfers between accounts, and that is how you send money from account to account, right? What do we got next? I think that's it for the main ones. Okay, so I should talk about like the more mathy terms now. Let's talk about APY and APR. So APY, we're about to do math. Stand back, guys. APY and APR. You're gonna see these everywhere. Like, let's go ahead and just do a general Google search. Best savings account. I don't know, bank rate. Yeah, sure. What do you got for us? And you're seeing these things. Look at these letters. APY, APY. Well, what's going on? Oh, and it tells you it's the percentage yield. And you're like, okay, that doesn't help me. It's accurate, but what does that actually mean? And why is it that when you search for savings accounts, they advertise APY, but if you search for best credit cards, again, these are kind of like the positive monies, right? When I search for negative cards, they always advertise. So it'll load here. Come on, internet. Where are those three letters? There's rewards rate. Am I just not seeing it here? APR? Yeah, they'll talk about APR. Why is it that one uses APR and one uses APY, and what's the difference? Aren't they the same thing? And the answer is they're very, very similar things. So APY, yeah, it does stand for annual percent yield, but it's an unhelpful name because it's essentially APR, which is, I think, the thing that you should always pay attention to, the annual percentage rate. I should probably capitalize those. It's just the percent that it increases for that year. Annual means year, right? So after the year, what is the interest that you will accrue on that account? And that rate could be going for you, like if you have a savings account, you have positive money, or it could be against you because it's a credit card and you have negative money, so this rate applies to that negative money. It is a fixed rate and applies to negative money or positive money. There will be different APRs and APYs for positive versus negative. Usually the negative money is a much bigger number. So what's the difference here? APY is essentially, this is APR, but with compound interest. So they automatically calculate that compound interest for you. And because they're doing compound interest, and because we're compound interest makes things bigger, assuming that your rate is positive, I guess. If you have compound interest, this APY is always, I'll do all caps here, always bigger than APR because they account for that compound interest. So if you want to attract people to a savings account where the money can grow, then you want a bigger number, so they'll advertise APY. And if you want to advertise cards that allow you to go into debt, you don't. This is working against you, so they want to advertise the lower of the numbers. They'll advertise APR, which is the more mathy term. So time for the math. What is an example to help you understand the relationship here? Let's go ahead and get out of bullet points, and we'll just do an example called example 1. I don't think I'm going to have any future examples in here. This is going to be a longish video already. In our first example, let's say that there's a credit card that has 1% interest per month. If they have 1% interest per month, then what is the APY? So let me give you some formulas in here too. APY is pretty complicated because it uses compound interest. It's going to be, can I do insert? There's, yes, equation. There we go. So we'll make it look much nicer. It's going to be, I'll say APY is equal to this 1 plus the rate, and that whole thing to the power of, and that's shift 6, the little caret symbol, to the power of the number of periods. So I'll just write periods. I can't see. Man, am I that old? Oh, that's not how you zoom in, Mr. Sandell. It's over here. Let's zoom in here. Oh dear God, I can see so much better. 1 plus rate to the power of periods. And then you have to subtract that original 1 as well. Minus 1. And what about APR? APR is easier. It's going to be insert equation. It's going to be APR is equal to just a multiplication problem. It's that rate that I talked, that same rate that I talked about up here, and then you just multiply that. You can do star if you want to be fancy. You can do backslash, not forward slash, just above the enter sign. C dot, and then hit spacebar. The little dot symbol for multiplication times periods. Again, the same periods up here. Much easier formula. So let's move example 1 down here. If I double click on this, does it? There we go. I can actually see everything in the same frame. So in example 1, credit card has interest, 1% interest per month. Here are the questions. What is the APR and what is the APY in that credit card? It's a pretty straightforward. Let's do APR first. So I'm gonna go ahead and insert an equation. I'll retype in APR is equal to that rate C dot periods, and in this case I'm just going to plug in. I have to insert equation again. That means APR is going to be equal to, well, my rate is 1%, so it's going to be 1%, and then I'm going to C dot my number of periods. Well, how many months are there in a year? Because we're trying to get annual, right? We're trying to get to a year and multiply by 12. And that's equal to 12%. Cool. We found APR. Nice and easy. The next one is going to require a calculator. So here we go. Insert equation. What is the APY? The APY is equal to, why don't I just copy and paste? That would save me a heck of a lot of time. Boink. And maybe I'll put an extra space in here so it's clear that I'm on the second part of this. Well, if I insert another equation, I'm going to say, okay, my APY is equal to 1 plus that 1%, so it's going to be 0.01. I'm going to convert it to, from a decimal, or from a percent into a, do I need to convert it into a percent? Or from a percent to a decimal? I think I do. To the power of 12, and then minus 1, and then I'm going to convert it back out of that. Calculator, go. So, let's go ahead and, don't know what I was doing there. You're going to go there, and then you're going to go there. Love Windows. They know what I'm thinking. Alright, so I'm going to just type this in. 1 plus, I should put this in parentheses, 1 plus 0.01, all of that in parentheses to the power of 12 minus 1. And then that whole number is a decimal, so I'm going to convert it back into a percent. Put all that times 100, and now it's a percent. It's 12.683, rounding to 3 decimal places. So that 2 got rounded up. 12.683. Come back here and say this is equal to 12.683%. Just out of curiosity, if I made that into a percent, it would definitely not have worked, because that would have been 1 plus 1, which is you double your money every month. That's not how it works. All right, thank you, Desmos. Come back here. Look, they're different, and like Mr. Sandal told you, APY is bigger than APR because it accounted for this compound interest. What is compound interest? It's a lesson I need to spend a whole day, maybe 2 days, talking about what is compound interest, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to talk about compound interest probably every single unit, and we'll revisit it. It's something you need to take away from this class. Whew, APY, APR, you've got them down. It's essentially how much your money grows, either grows in the positive direction or grows in the negative direction. The TLDR there. Next, moving back to bullet points, by the way, that's Command-Shift-8, or I'm on the Windows, so it's Control-Shift-8. It might be Control-Shift-8 for Mac. I totally forgot. What else do we need? Oh yeah, I've talked about the FDIC before. FDIC. The FDIC, what does that stand for? It's the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. And basically, all they do is they insure money in banks. That's it. I don't know them to do anything else, which is kind of interesting because we'll be talking about insurance. There's an R in there, thank you. I don't know what I messed up, but if you found it, you're smarter than me. Cool. Insurance, we have a whole unit dedicated to insurance, life insurance, health insurance, all of that. It's kind of cool to have this federal version of insurance. It applies to everywhere in the United States, and it applies to all banks, which is really cool. Things that you already know about this as a review is they insure up to money symbol 250, $250,000 per account. So if you have an account with Chase, if you have a savings account with Wells Fargo, etc., each of those can be insured up to $250,000. I could throw in another example here. If you had $300,000 and then the bank collapsed and went out of business, how much money do you lose? You lose $50,000 because you just use however much money you had minus this amount. So never, I don't think anyone's going to be in this scenario unless you're super rich and doing something really wrong with your money. Never put over $250,000 in a single banking account because you are stupid. I'm calling you out, sorry, but it's true. The other form of that, because this only applies to banks, so only applies to banks, and it applies to both online banks and banks with physical branches. But that doesn't include credit unions, and again, this is now review. But there's the NCUA, which is the National Credit Union. God, I can credit. Those idiots at the credit union. Association. What is it? Administration. That's what it is. Administration. You're gonna have to trust me. If you don't believe me, I would Google it. I mean, Google everything. Please make sure I'm right. This applies to credit unions as it is in the title, and it's basically the same thing as the FDIC. And there's not that much difference. They only do one thing, and they only insure money, and they only insure money for credit unions. Same limit. I'll write up to money symbol, which I don't know very well. Shift 4, $250,000. Same thing, same exact thing, but different people. Whew, getting close to the end here. What do we got? Oh yeah, so these are really important words. Wait, hold on, let me get one that's not super important. CDs. We'll have a whole lesson on what a CD is. It's a don't know why I did a hyphen here instead of a colon. Annoys me. If I did something else that annoys you, please let me know in the comments of this YouTube video. A CD is a certificate of deposit. I can spell, I swear. And it's just it's a lump sum of money that just sits there. And it accrues interest, and it's usually not that good. Although I had my mind recently changed because I was Googling it before this lesson. You can't touch it for the duration. However, if you have like a bigger one, like a 5-year CD, usually like every year they're like, do you want to modify it? You want to take a little bit out, put a little bit in. There is a little bit of wiggle room here. But generally it's an investment, so I'll talk about it more when we do our investment unit. It does apply to banks though, so I'll put it here too. And those durations are typically like 3 months or 6 months, 9 months. There's like a year, that's a really common one. There's like 3 years, there's, I don't know, I'm random comments. There's like a 5 years. There's just different increments. Choose whichever one you want. And again, they're going to be advertising APY because it's the bigger number, and you want your number, your positive number to grow faster. You never want your negative number to grow fast. So I already Googled this ahead of time. What have I done? Oh yeah, Google. That's the symbol if your card is contactless, which I'll be talking about later. Did that. Ooh, I forgot to talk about that. Hold on, slight tangent. I forgot to talk about that the average APY for the entire United States, according to NerdWallet, as of 2022 in January, this video might be outdated really soon, is 0.06%. So let's add that to our notes. Average APY in US, and then if you want to be super studious, you can be according to NerdWallet, blah blah blah. I'm not going to put that. I'm going to say is, and again this is crazy, is a percent, 0.06%. Yes, that means in order to multiply this, it's 0.0 and then 0.6, but you have to add in 2 additional zeros to make that decimal. So if you multiply your number by this amount of money, or this number, that's how much your money is growing. That's basically 0, guys. It doesn't grow very fast. And one of the cooler things is if you like do online banking, your APY is going to be closer to like 0.5%. It's really cool to go online banking, and that's going to be another future project. Choose an online bank. Why would you choose that one versus that one? Anyway, sorry, moving on. Can't touch it for the duration, and they will advertise APR. So let's take a quick peek. I will have a whole lesson on CDs in the future, but I just googled best CD rates for the current month and year, and then they're like, hey, look at these rates. And again, APY means they're accounting for compound interest. So if you put at least $500 in here and you can't touch it for a year, it will grow by 0.55%. Does that sound good? To me, no, because inflation, again, is usually around 2 to 3%, and that's a constant negative. So after 1 year, you've lost 1.5%, even though you've gone up by 0.55. So you're always battling inflation. You're trying to see, is there something that's bigger than inflation? And so I think when I do the CD lesson, I'll research this more in depth, but I think I found one that was like really close to inflation. I'm like, whoa, I didn't realize it was that close. Cool. Why did I have this tab open? I was trying to remember. Oh yeah, so I was looking up the Eastern Sierra Community Bank and looking at what type of banking words do they use, and they're like opening balance, monthly service charge. I'm eventually hitting those, and while doing that, I realized that I was wrong yesterday. I was like, credit unions don't have safe deposit box. I'm like, oh, but they do if you go with the higher tier checking account, but the lower tier checking account does not have the safe deposit box. I was wrong. So sorry. Always Google it. Mr. Snell can be wrong. I'll lie to you unintentionally. Sorry. Moving on. I'll talk about that word we were just talking about. Opening deposit requirement. God, I'm so self-conscious of my spelling. What is this? It's the smallest money to open an account. There it is. It's that straightforward. It's like, hey, kid, you got $500, and all right, come open up a bank account. And for some of us, that $500 is a lot harder to come by than others. And some banks are like, I don't even care. You got a cent, you got 1 penny, come to us. It's different from bank to bank. This one I care about more than probably, not any of these words. Like compound interest is such a powerful word, but this is an important word, especially if you're going to take my advice about opening multiple savings accounts. Is this one? Here we go. Minimum balance requirement. So this has 2 pieces to it. Obviously, it's the smallest money to do something, but it's the smallest amount of money in your account, and typically by the end of the month. So you can dip below this amount, and at least whenever your cycle is, that's when you'll actually look at this. The cycle, I'm saying in air quotes, but you can't see my camera, is when they calculate, okay, time to give them their 0.0006 multiplier. Whenever they decide that, that's also when you need to have that minimum amount of money in your account. By the end of the month, what am I saying here? To get 2 things. And then the first thing is so you don't pay a maintenance fee. That's the big one, because maintenance fees are typically about $10, sometimes $15, and it's basically saying you don't have enough money in your account, we're gonna take some away. And it's counterintuitive. It's like, wait, I need more money in my account, why are you taking it away from me? Keep the poor, right? And the second piece of that is it's the same thing, smallest amount of money. So you, instead of so you don't pay a maintenance fee, it's so you qualify for an advertised APY. Like, did I would close that tab, but there's a tab where I opened it and I was searching for best APYs in the United States, and they're like, yeah, it has 0.5% APY, assuming you have under this amount of money, because otherwise it would be kind of nice. So be careful. This is a big one. When you're going to be looking into banks in your future lessons, you need to pay attention to your minimum balance requirement, because if it doesn't have one, just go and get it, right? That kind of naturally segues into fees, because I asked a maintenance fee. Well, what's that, right? So let's talk about a maintenance fee. A maintenance fee is basically you don't have enough funds. Don't have enough funds. Just to save money. Don't want to be overly complex here. Don't have enough money in your account. You have to have it by the end of the month, right? Or by the end of the cycle. By the end of the cycle. I've said that before. I should probably write it down. And I should also say it's usually about $10. Other fees. There's a lot of fees because banks love making money, right? There's an overdraft fee. Sadly, I do not have a perfect record. I have hit an overdraft fee when I was in college because I didn't know anything about banking. Well, I did, but still hit it. And this is when you don't have enough money to cover a purchase. So an example would be like you go to the grocery store and you're like, I don't know how much money I have in my checking account, and you buy $200 worth of groceries, and you only had $150 worth of money in your saving or in your checking account. So two things happen. First, you don't get those groceries. It's not like it just goes through. You have to put things back until it goes down to the amount that you can put on there. And second, because you were silly and you didn't know how much money was in your account, they will charge you additional money on top of that. And again, I probably should have looked this up, but I'm gonna guess. Oh, here, let's guess and check. So I'm gonna say it's like $35. Let's call average overdraft fee. Oh, look how close that was. I'm just gonna call it $35. Yeah, don't have an overdraft fee. And then there's like another version of overdraft fee. I didn't even know about this before this lesson. So if you never hear it again, that's probably because it's not important, but I'll put it in here anyway because I'll never cover it again. And that is a returned item fee. Return item fee. And maybe I think it's not important because I've never experienced this, but this is more commonly referred to as the bounced check fee. If you've heard of the word bounce check, it basically means you have spent money, and instead of using a debit card, I should put here like this is usually like a debit card. Instead of using a debit card, you did it with a check. And that's probably why I don't hear about it too often. It's like I write a check once a month. I used to write a check once a month. And I got so off track, but the reason that you want to know how to write checks eventually is because you are going to probably have to pay your rent in checks if you ever rent anywhere. I've never rented from anywhere. I've rented from like 6 different people, and every single one of them is like, nope, no Venmo, no Zelle, no online cool stuff, just write us a check. So that's why you gotta learn how to write checks for now. Maybe in 10 years after teaching this course, I don't have to write checks anymore, and that would be pretty cool. Times are moving on. It's basically the same. So I'm just gonna write here, basically an overdraft fee. And your check has bounced. You didn't have enough money. So what happens is, it's kind of funny because it's the opposite, right? Where the overdraft fee, you use your debit card and they say, your card has been declined, madam. And then you have to return some groceries. This one is more like you pay your rent and you think everything is fine and dandy, and then your landlord comes and says, yeah, your check bounced and you need to give me another one. It's like you already got to live there. I think it'd be hilarious if you wrote a check for groceries. I haven't seen it happen very often, but you can write a check for anything, right? If you write a check for groceries and then they don't know it's going to bounce, they don't immediately deposit it. They don't do it until like, I don't know, maybe the end of the day, end of the week, sometime later, but you get to take your groceries and then you get hit with it, which is kind of cool. So if you're tricky about it and you know you don't have enough, then you write a check and you get paid like the next day, and then it goes through. You might not get the returned item fee. There's a way around it, right? That was a lot. Oh my god, I'm 34 minutes in this video. What am I doing with my life? Yes, that is a lot. I will leave it there. We have a lot more vocab to go through, guys. I'm sorry that I am doing so many notes, but there you have it. If I've made mistakes, if things have been updated in future years, please comment in the YouTube video down below that I'm wrong. I love being wrong because it means that my viewers will have accurate information. My students will have accurate information. With that, thank you guys for taking some notes with me. I'm going to scroll through these really slowly in case you want to see all the notes. Is there a way to zoom out to have multiple pages? Not really, but here's the notes. Slowish. Pause it at any time that you'd like. And we are done with basic banking terminology.